Yeah, here come the rooster. Yeah, yeah, here come the rooster. Yeah.
All right, on this particular college football preview, everybody, we are going to be talking about Cocks. Gamecocks. Yeah, that's right, the South Carolina Gamecocks, the 2014 edition. And if you've been following South Carolina football lately, you know that 11-2 is a familiar record. That's the record that they've posted each of the past 3 seasons. The old ball coach Steve Spurrier now enters year number 10. Hard to believe that he's been there 10 years in Columbia, South Carolina. Done terrific things for that program. They don't have an SEC championship, though, to show for it. And if you thought there was ever a year where they could really make a major impact, okay, 11-2 is real good, but I'm talking about a major impact. Win the SEC, or at the very least, get into that 4-team college football playoff. You think this might be the team that does it because a wealth of talent returns. At quarterback, though, you do miss out on having Connor Shaw back. Connor Shaw was the program's all-time winningest quarterback. As a matter of fact, the guy was just spectacular during his career. Remember that Missouri game last year handed the Tigers their only regular season loss after the Gamecocks were down by 3 scores in the second half. He comes in and pretty much rallies the troops and spoils that game for Missouri in double overtime. His replacement, though, saw 10 ball games in action last season. That was Dylan Thompson. Now, Thompson knows that if he's in trouble, he's not going to have number 14 to bail him out this time. It's Dylan Thompson's show. You pretty much could say it's Dylan Thompson or bust for this team, but the biggest reason why I think a lot of people are really high on South Carolina, besides the fact that they entered this season coming off a 34-point per average game last year, is because of the talent around them. And I know that Mike Davis is a capable running back. We saw it last year with over 1,100 yards rushing. Got to watch out for his status, though, because this guy's had hard luck. Last year, remember against Missouri late in that game, I think he had a foot injury in that one. Also, too, this season, may not play in the opener, just a few days away against Texas A&M, having some issues with the ribs. I'll have to wait and see on that. So Brendan Wilds better be ready. But Davis, if he's healthy, one of the best running backs around. And I know that the wide receivers should once again be talented, and the passing attack should be there for the Gamecocks. Shaq Rowland, you got him back. Farrell Cooper's not very tall, only 5'10", but he's a guy that can get open regardless because of his speed. So you got those 2 guys back. But to me, the biggest reason why South Carolina's got a big opportunity to do something big this season, they only lose the right guard as far as returning starters. Everybody else on that offensive line is back, and they're coming off a spectacular year. How spectacular? Well, you might know that this decade, if you're a South Carolina fan, one of the big Achilles heels for this team has been, in fact, quarterback sacks. They give up too many of them. But last year was a change. They cut that number down big time. You had that momentum from last year, and also, too, you've got Corey Robinson and Brendan Shellback, maybe the best tackle duo in all of college football. You got A.J. Cam back at the left guard. So this is a team that, offensive line-wise, the best that Steve Spurrier has ever had during his 10 years there at South Carolina. So the offense has the capability of doing a lot of things. Again, Dylan Thompson is going to be the key, but he did see a lot of action last year. On defense, we're going to begin with the linebackers. This is a very experienced squad, very good. Sky Moore's back. You have Kawan Lewis back, and also maybe the best of the bunch in Sherrod Golightly. These 3 guys are impactful players. As far as the secondary, the safeties are back too. And last year, South Carolina was 12th in the country in pass deep. So Bryson Williams, Chaz Elder returned, but the corners, that might be the one area where South Carolina's going to have to develop. And they got to develop quick because A&M, the team that they'll be playing in just a few days on August 28th, does have the capability of putting up a lot of passing yardage. So we'll see how the corners will do for South Carolina. Not as experienced as the safeties. Defensive line is going to be where a lot of people are focused because naturally you had studs on the offense on that defensive line last year. You might have heard of this guy, Jadeveon Clowney. Yeah, he could play. he really could throughout his tenure at South Carolina, #1 overall draft pick. But we found out that he did not have 100% physical health throughout the season too. And plus, remember, he was Jadeveon Clowney, so he was going to draw double teams as well. But you don't just lose him too; you lose Kelsy, Quarles as well. So as you can tell at the bottom of the screen there, we're highlighting some of the impactful players on the defensive line that could help. If there is an area that this team could be better in that they weren't as well in last year as I thought they would be, and that is getting to the quarterback. They only had 25 sacks last year, and that's despite the fact that the pass defense played well. Normally, when you don't get that many sacks, the pass defense suffers, okay, because you're not getting much pressure on the QB. They only had 25 sacks last year, which was a 17-sack decrease from the year before. Telling you what, to try to get to the national championship, to get to that 4-team playoff, you cannot just play like you did last year and not get enough pressure on the quarterback. Secondary helped last year. Linebackers did too, but they can only take you so far if you can't get heat on the quarterback. So don't be surprised if the linebackers get a little more active to try to aid the rest of that front seven in pressure quarterbacking. And also, too, kicker, no problem there. Elliott Fry's back. He only missed 3 kicks last year out of 18. Punting has to get improved with Tyler Hall. His punt per average last year did drop a little bit. The schedule for South Carolina, to me, it comes down to 3 games. 3 games that really, to me, could make or break South Carolina as far as winning the SEC and maybe bigger things down the road. And we're talking about the early September matchup. It's the 3rd game of the year where they host Georgia. Done well against the Bulldogs, but the Bulldogs did win last year in Athens. So a lot of eyes will be on that game, I believe September 13th at Columbia, South Carolina. And then you go much later into the season as we get all the way to October 25th. Might be the only game, people, that South Carolina's an underdog in throughout the regular season. Playing at last year's national runners-up, Auburn, and their terrific quarterback, Nick Marshall. Not saying South Carolina can't win that game, but it'll be the toughest game up to that point. The final game of the year, and I know that South Carolina has owned this team. I know it's a big rivalry. It's a lot of recruiting implications as well. Could be national implications too. I know South Carolina's won the last 5 games, and they've won them by at least a 10-point spread. Winning at Clemson is never easy, and it won't be easy this year either, even though they do lose some of those offensive weapons like Boyd and Watkins from a year ago. It'll still be hard to win, at Death Valley at the end of the year. That's the regular season finale on November the 29th. Not a conference game, but still a big game, nevertheless, considering what South Carolina is shooting for. So, you won 5 in a row in that rivalry, but you never know when that streak could come to an end. So you just can't pencil it in as a W, and I know South Carolina won't. Best case scenario, very well could be 12-0 for South Carolina. A lot of players back. You got a terrific coach. I believe that with the way the schedule's laid out, because they get most of their they get most of their notable games at home. We mentioned the Georgia games at home. Tennessee's at home too, and that was a game that last season, South Carolina, shockingly lost, and they lost that at Knoxville. But they get the rematch at home, and they play Missouri at home too. So I think the schedule, the way it lays out, and by the way, the first game of the year is in a few days at home against A&M on the SEC network, a brand new network. That's their very first game that they're going to be broadcasting. But 12-0, is that possible? Yeah. Is a playoff possible as far as South Carolina entering it? It is too. They've got everything back, or pretty close to it. Worst case scenario could be 8-4. What happens if Dylan Thompson goes down? Mike Davis, we've already seen him having some injury issues. He's questionable, maybe doubtful for the A&M game. They could win that one probably without him, but down the road they're going to need him. So yeah, watch out for his health. Look, 8-4 could very well happen for South Carolina just as easily as 12-0 could, just because you have uncertainties right now if Thompson could be full-time all year long, and if Mike Davis, how his health is going to look. I don't think this team gets to that 14 playoff without Mike Davis. Likely scenario, I'm going 11-1 for this team, okay? I think they will win the SEC East. I do think they beat Georgia. I do think they beat Clemson at the end of the year, which will help their national strength of schedule. I think they lose at Auburn, though, but I still think they get to the SEC championship game, and I think they put up one heck of a fight in the SEC championship in Atlanta. but I think they fall just a little short. I got them going, well, 11-2 in the regular season because of that SEC championship game, if you count that as a regular season game. They'll go to probably a major bowl game and have a shot at a 12-win season. So let's see how everything works out. We'll see how that defensive line works out for South Carolina, and we'll see if Davis and Thompson can indeed be those offensive answers. They got a heck of an offensive line to help them out. That's my look at South Carolina. Another preview coming soon, everybody. Thanks.